Great. Good evening and welcome to tonight's segment of Ask a Bishop. My name is Katie Webster. I'm the Director of Alumni Relations at Ohio Wesleyan, and it's great to see you all joining us. I know we'll have some others coming in and out as we go. The Ask a Bishop series was established to engage alumni and friends virtually and highlight a different topic of interest featuring accomplished OWU alumni, faculty, and students. I'm happy to welcome you to our cooking series tonight, Becoming a Top Chef in Your Bishop Kitchen. And this is brought to you by the Office of Alumni Relations and Department of Nutrition. I'm really happy to introduce our guests this evening. We have Chris Fink, Associate Professor of Health and Human Kinetics, and Liz Nix, Assistant Professor of Nutrition, who will be serving as our moderators tonight. And our student chefs, I will introduce them. We have Lee Stavar. I probably just mispronounced her last name. She is a junior nutrition pre-med major and an English minor. She's a swimmer and a part of the HHK student board and is a current junior. Ryan McElwee is a junior at Ohio Wesleyan. He is a nutrition major and participant of the wrestling team. Ryan has been with us for the Top Chefs at the beginning. I always like sharing this, that his participation in wrestling sparked interest in food and nutrition. And so he's always ready to find new ways to bring recipes to all of us. Lauren Mussenden is a junior at OWU in the Health and Human Kinetics major with a health promotion concentration. She's from Delaware, and she has an interest in health, food, and cooking as well. And then Olivia Moyler is a junior at OWU, Health and Human Kinetics Health Promotion Concentration. She is a member of the swim team at Ohio Wesleyan and is from Worthington, Ohio. So welcome to our top chefs, and I'm going to turn it over to Chris and Liz.
All right, welcome everyone. So today we're going to focus on some budget-friendly meals, and this is one of my personal favorites because one of the things that I often hear from students or from just people within the community is, I want to eat healthy, but it's just so expensive. And to me, I feel like that's just not necessarily true. I feel like that there are a lot of ways to eat healthy on a budget. When I was doing my PhD, I actually worked with the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. They were doing a research study on using sort of an intervention for creating budget-friendly meals, and I learned so much from my participants about the ways they seem to manage a limited budget on food and also seem to create really delicious foods and plan their menus. So one of the things that we do at Ohio Wesleyan, something that we may have mentioned in previous activities, is we work with members of the community in something called Cooking Matters. So Cooking Matters is a program that focuses specifically on cooking on a budget. We have a cookbook. We usually run a 6-week class where we work with people to kind of talk about, we just kind of have a dialogue about what all of these tips are for healthy eating on a budget. And I'm going to let Dr. Chris Fink tell a little bit more about that because he's been working with this for a lot longer than I have.
Thanks. Yeah, so tonight the recipes are all coming from that catalog of stuff that we've used in Cooking Matters. And I'll post a link in the chat in a little bit for a Cooking Matters webpage where there's some of these recipes and other recipes that you can try out. But Cooking Matters is an initiative out of a nonprofit in DC called Share Our Strength. So they've put together a curriculum and recipes that are aimed at serving folks who are at risk for food insecurity and helping provide some like tasty ways that they can have healthy meals that are on a tight budget. But as we know, tight budgets are something that most people experience, if not all the time, at least from time to time. So these really do translate well. And I've made a bunch of them and used them just for, going over to someone's house and things like that. So they're really great recipes. We, back in 2014, started partnering with Local Matters, which is a Columbus-based nonprofit who does food education advocacy things in Columbus, and became kind of a satellite partner of theirs to do the Cooking Matters program. And basically, it's a 6-week class at its core. It's a 6-week class where community members for free take a class that focuses on cooking, that focuses on healthy eating, principles on budgeting, on meal planning. There's a grocery store tour, all of that kind of stuff. Um, and the goal is to try to help facilitate discussion around healthy eating. The other important thing to note is that we don't preach, right? Like we talk to people, try to meet them where they are and find out what their barriers are, and see if we can use the rest of the people in the room who are probably much more expert at their own situations, obviously, but maybe even each other's. So our students are actually the ones that do this program. Dr. Nixon and I just, meet with them outside and everything. But once we get to the classes, the students lead those classes, and we're there and we participate, but our students lead it. And we've been doing that since 2014, as I mentioned. And I don't have the data in front of me, but over 2,000 people here in Delaware have been part of that programming. And we get grant funding through the United Way and the Hunger Coalition, called the Delaware County Hunger Alliance, to do that program. We also do one-time classes, lots of other stuff like that. And as you can imagine, lately we've been struggling a little bit to figure out how to do this in this new reality, at least for the time being. So we're developing a way to do kind of video series along with meal kits, things that people can come to a food pantry or another social service agency and pick up, that they can do at home along with the videos. At least for now, that's kind of what we think might be the best way forward. So yeah, that is the kind of the rundown of Cooking Matters. But I think one of the biggest kind of satisfactions is seeing students gain that confidence in doing this kind of work, and also getting to know people in the community. I think sometimes there's a pretty deep divide between Ohio Wesleyan and the community. And I've been around a while, but not long enough to know all of the ins and outs of that. But I know that this feels good for the participants and the students to get to know each other and spend time together that way. We eat together, at the end of the class, all the recipes that we make, we eat together. And it's just there's a good healthy thing to that too. Also, the people who are in the class take home groceries to make the meals at home, because one big barrier is, someone could show up to a Cooking Matters class and we could say, look at this great recipe. And they make it and they love it. And then they go home and make it for their family. And maybe you've experienced this, and everybody's like, yeah, I don't really like that, And so all of a sudden, this is a family who maybe struggles to afford healthy food or any food. And now they've wasted money on this meal that no one will eat. So another barrier would be that. So we give them all the groceries to make these meals each week. So that's another key component of the class. Each recipe is $1.40 or less per serving. So now the caveat to that is that's priced out like as if you use every piece of ingredient that you bought. So that's another key educational aspect, is to try to help our participants, think of ways to use the extra 6 celery stalks after they make the meal with 2 celery stalks from the package, as you've probably experienced. Throwing away celery stalks that you couldn't figure out what to use them with. So anyway, I'm talking too much, I think, but that's Cooking Matters. We've had a lot of other institutions ask, how do you do that? How do you get the students prepared to do that? We've built it into the nutrition and health promotion curriculum. So that's part of how, we have classes where they're learning health education strategies and then putting them into practice in Cooking Matters programs.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, are you still going?
No, you can go.
So Chris Fink has been working with this program for a lot longer than I have. So I was really excited when I came onto this. I think that he and a former colleague, Nancy Knope, they worked really hard to make this something that builds students' confidence and skills, so that you're not just throwing them out there and saying, hey, go do this thing. So we've still been working on this a little bit. We've now added a food transformation course to our nutrition curriculum, so that students are also learning the techniques and science behind these food transformation methods that they're using. So speaking of which, and I know you're tired of hearing of us now, I'm going to check in with the students here, our chefs, to see how they are doing. So I'm going to start with Ryan. Ryan, what is it that you're making today?
Sorry, it took me a second. I couldn't find my mouse. I'm making orange oatmeal pancakes with eggs and turkey bacon on the side.
Awesome. So kind of a breakfast. So it's it's an orange pancake, right?
Yes, orange oatmeal pancake.
Orange oatmeal pancake. So it's a little different than the traditional pancake.
Yeah.
Perfect. So we kind of had the idea of doing breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I'm going to move on to lunch, which, well, lunch and dinner are kind of a flexible thing here. So I'm going to talk to Lauren here and check in with her.
So I'm making black bean and vegetable quesadillas, which will have zucchini, black bean corn, some nice spices. So yeah, perfect for dinner, or you can have it for lunch as well. And it's good for meal prepping as well. And a good way to get vegetables in too.
Awesome. So those bean and veggie quesadillas, we have used those so many times in almost every 6-week cooking class we do. We also use it in our cooking activities that we have with our students. So in the intro to nutrition class, as well as some of the other classes, we do sort of a cooking experience so that they can start getting familiar with the kitchen. All right, so sometimes we don't just stick to breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and we like to have some snacks. So I'm going to jump over to Lee Stavar, right? And she's going to tell us about hers.
You're so close. So I'm making tortilla chips, like homemade corn tortilla chips, and a spicy white bean dip with like cannellini beans. You can use other kinds of beans, but that's what we got. I sort of already made the tortilla chips. They're right. I don't want to tip them all over, but I did. But yeah, that's.
Awesome. So she's using cannellini beans, but she might have some ideas of other things that you could use as well. So we'll come back to her in just a minute. And then lastly, I'm going to ask Liv about her recipe.
Hi everyone. I'm making, can you guys hear me? Yeah. I'm making frittatas, and I just got finished cutting up all my veggies. All the veggies I use for this are onions, mushrooms, red bell peppers, zucchini, and tomato. So I'm about to saute these.
Awesome. So all of these recipes do come from the Cooking Matters cookbook, and Dr. Fink, I believe, added the links to those recipes. Is that right? Yep. So Dr. Fink has posted, or sorry, Chris Fink has posted this link to all of these recipes. So these are recipes that are budgeted, like he had mentioned, but then you have this issue of using these extra ingredients. Or maybe if somebody's relying predominantly on a food pantry, then they don't even have those ingredients. So some of the common ingredients that we have in our Cooking Matters cookbooks are things like beans. And one of the reasons for this, besides them being just a really affordable protein option, is that they're also very common in food pantries. And so a lot of our participants who are reliant on food pantries are going to have ready access to beans. So I think Lee and Lauren, you're both using beans in your recipe. So Lee, I think you had talked about different ways to, or different options for beans, right?
Yes. So for like I said, I lost my bean. It's back there. But I'm using cannellini beans, but you can also use Great Northern beans or navy beans. Those are the ones the recipe recommends. But you could even make it with black beans, like whatever you have on hand. It is really versatile that way. And like Dr. Nick said, they're a great source of protein. I'm a vegetarian, so I rely very heavily on beans as a source of protein in my diet. And it is like just a snack. So having a snack with protein in it, even better.
Awesome. Yeah, so beans are a fantastic food that I feel like are completely underrated in the US. Pretty much every other country uses them regularly as a staple of their diet, and I feel like we're kind of missing that a little bit here. So beans are easy to have canned as well as dried. And then Lauren, you're also using beans. So tell us about what you're doing with your recipe right now.
So right now I just finished chopping up my spinach and cilantro, and I was in the middle of opening this can of corn to mix in there as well. And then I'm gonna cover it and it'll cook for I think a couple minutes till everything cooks down and gets soft and loses a little bit of the water. And then I think we add in, we'll go to the next step.
All right, awesome. So you've made this recipe before, right?
Yeah, it's been a couple months, but yeah, I'm familiar with it.
All right, so this one, do you feel like it's a pretty quick and easy recipe?
I think so. And what I really like about it is that, I mean, if you don't want to have it as a quesadilla, you could also use it as, you could do like quesadilla or taco bowls, and add in some other vegetables, even like tomatoes, or even have it on some rice is a good option as well. I think this recipe is very versatile, which is awesome.
Great. Yeah, I think versatility is something that a lot of our participants seem to struggle with a little bit, is just kind of, well, these are the ingredients that I have. And using ingredients that you have on hand is really a good way to kind of use up leftovers for one, so you're reducing food waste, and to kind of create meals that are a little bit more budget friendly because you're using what you have. So the versatility options that both Lauren and Lee mentioned are really helpful. All right, I'm going to check in with Liv here. How is everything going with that frittata? Oh, I'm not sure Liv can hear me. Oh, she was just in the zone. Okay.
Sorry, I was muted. Right now, I'm sauteing the vegetables. The recipe calls to boil them, but in lieu of time and flavor-wise, I'm gonna saute them and season the vegetables beforehand, and I'll also cut down on cooking time as a whole for the frittata. So right now I'm sauteing, and I just whipped up my eggs, and then they should be ready to go in the pan momentarily.
Great. So this frittata recipe is great because it basically just says use whatever is on hand or use whatever is seasonal. And right now this is, easy to do, right? There's all kinds of seasonal vegetables, but using other seasonal veggies can be a little bit more of a challenge when it comes to creating a recipe. So for example, if you're trying to cook something with asparagus in December, it's probably going to be pretty expensive and not really the best version of asparagus. So this frittata recipe is a really good example of kind of built-in versatility. The recipe itself actually just states to use seasonal veggies, and that might change with whatever recipe, with whatever vegetables are around.
I feel like we made this, didn't we make this one time also in muffin tins? So we did kind of like individual portioned frittata.
Yeah, I think this is something you did with the year before I came to OU.
Okay. Yeah, so it's the kind of thing that you could do, freeze, pop out into a microwave or something, and then eat that for a quick breakfast too. So the frittata recipe is pretty versatile, even in the vessel that you use to make it, which is great.
Yeah, I think we also, so in that cooking class where we're kind of learning about food transformation methods, our lab instructor, Dr. Rosemary Riley, has started creating more personalized ones so that each student is cooking just a small portion to reduce food waste. And so she made a small pan-sized frittata, and I could probably also see if she would lend that recipe to us. So it's based off of this Cooking Matters recipe, but she just cooks the whole thing in the pan rather than using an oven for that. So I have a question here from Katie. One of the things that we're missing in this virtual cooking activity is the smell of the kitchen, and it's definitely the thing that makes me sad. So what are some of the smells that are standing out to you and the things that are making your kitchen smell wonderful? I'm going to start with Ryan.
I'm just about to put in the batter, and then I'm going to start whipping everyone's eggs together. So really, I have nothing really cooking quite yet, but go for it. We're feeding the dogs too. You come back to me in like 3 minutes, I'll tell you what smells good.
Awesome. Yeah, pancakes are a great, easy recipe to have breakfast or for lunch or breakfast for breakfast, and usually pretty kid-friendly. So I think we've made this one before in the kid classes, and they do usually make the whole room kind of smell a little bit citrusy. So that'll be nice to hear about when Ryan starts cooking that. All right, Lauren, how's yours going?
Right now, I'm just having the corn and the veggie mixture saute, and what's really standing out is the sweet corn. It smells really good, and I'm surprised because I didn't think canned corn would smell that good. So I'm excited about that because I might buy canned corn more often opposed to frozen corn. So
Great. So this is something that I tend to drill in pretty hard. We actually have a lesson in the Cooking Matters cookbook about fresh, frozen, and canned, that we talk about the benefits of all of these different kinds of vegetables. And so even though hypothetically we'd all love to have fresh fruits and vegetables all the time, that's just not realistic given our seasonal produce, right? And so the things that we really like to talk about is how canned vegetables, frozen vegetables, that all of these can really be used in a balanced diet. And so those cans of corn or the cans of tomatoes are usually picked at their full ripeness and canned right away. So this might be better than something that might have to be grown in a greenhouse without a lot of good nutrient content to it. All right, Lee, how is yours smelling? You don't really get to cook that much.
Yeah, there hasn't been a ton of cooking because the bean dip doesn't really require a lot of cooking. But I am making my tortilla chips, and the Sty kitchen for once smelled delicious. And they're just like flour tortillas. They're not like fancy, but like with a little olive oil and salt, they feel delicious.
So using those homemade tortillas can help you kind of keep down the oil content and the salt content on those chips a little bit. And so I know that's something that you talked about. You'd also talked about rinsing and draining your beans. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So a lot of people avoid canned foods because they have such a high sodium content. And all I did was I had a strainer and I dumped my beans in there and I rinsed them under the faucet for probably like 20, 30 seconds and just kind of shook it around. Because you can reduce a lot of the sodium content by just rinsing off it's not sauce. I can't think of the name. What is it? Like the
salt,
liquid.
Sodium.
The liquid. You rinse off the sodium that's in the liquid. So I did that before I put those in.
Great. So Ellen, Lee is using our culinary kitchen, which right now is a converted cafe. She's also going back and forth between the Sty residential hall. That's why she was wearing her mask at the beginning of the class. And so she's been kind of going back and forth because we don't quite have an oven in our makeshift kitchen quite yet. All right, and then Liv, how is yours going?
So I just got finished putting the cooked veggies in the pan. Kind of just like Dr. Fink said, the recipe calls for putting it in a sheet pan, but just for individual sizes and multiple servings for myself and my friend that put it in here. The smell I have now is the fresh sauteed veggies. And that's always fresh vegetables. Sauteed is always something true to my heart. Like I really do love the smell of fresh ingredients. Gets me excited about eating it.
Great. All right. So Ryan, have you been able to do any cooking yet?
Yes, I'm just about to finish my first. Sorry, it's a tight squeeze. I'm just about to finish my first pancake.
Awesome. I've got to be honest, pancakes are probably one of my least favorite things in all the world because I don't like eating them and I always burn them. So Ryan has got a perfect first pancake. Although I'm pretty sure that first pancakes are supposed to be burnt, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
they're normally not the best. It's called like the chef's treat or something like that. But and I kind of made it a little bit too big. I'm just gonna check in the middle to see if it's cooked, and it is. This is the first time I made
Yay!
it.
A good first pancake is, wow, that is a
Rare.
talent.
More recognition, but I'm gonna try it.
All right.
For a plain pancake, that's pretty good.
That's awesome. All right, I'm going to check back in on Lauren and kind of see what step she's on.
So I just put in my black beans to the vegetable and corn mixture, and I'm gonna mix it up with some black pepper and garlic powder. And then I'm gonna start assembling my quesadillas.
Okay, awesome.
can't remember
So
if you said this, but the quesadillas have been not only popular in our 6-week classes for adults, but we were pretty surprised that we've done some classes with middle schoolers, which has been a big learning experience for us. There's a building that was the high school, and then was a middle school, and then was a 5th and 6th grade school on William Street, the Willis, and that building is now kind of a community center with a lot of different programs. Anyway, we've done Cooking Matters classes there with middle schoolers, and like I said, we've learned a lot. We've learned to not sit out any knives or other things until we're really ready to use them, you know, things like that, little important features. But that recipe that Lauren's making has a lot of stuff in it that we would think maybe kids would turn their nose up at, you know, zucchini and black beans and kids like corn generally, but this one's always been really popular with them as well. I think it's also, you know, something you can get your kids involved in the kitchen with making, because it's a mixture of canned and steps of moving things in and out of the pan. And so there's just a lot of good learning with that particular recipe. And so I kind of have fond memories of it for that, for sure. But yeah, the kids really loved it, and we were pretty pleasantly surprised about that, I think. But those middle school classes are a lot of fun. They take a little bit of flexibility because they don't always go just as you planned, I would say.
One of my favorite kind of quotes from Cooking Matters is we had a group of middle schoolers who were making those black bean and veggie quesadillas. And I asked one of the students what they thought of it. And she said, you know, I really thought I was going to hate it. But as it turns out, it's way better than I thought. And it makes me think maybe I should start trying more things that I think I might hate. And I was just like, oh my God, my job is done. We're good. If I can do this for one student, then I'm happy. And so this is something we try to do, not just in those middle school classes, but also our students. I think we try to expose them to new flavors and new challenges and kind of try to expand their palate. Although most of the time, the ones who sign up for Cooking Matters are pretty good about trying new things. So I think that they're learning along with us about trying new stuff. And we always find that we're learning just as much, if not more, from these participants and our students than they are from us. So it's always been a really fun, delightful time for us. All right, Liz, I'm going to check back in on you. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. My frittatas just went to the oven, so now is like kind of the waiting game. I will say this is my first time making them in these muffin pans. I think I slightly overfilled them, but I think it's gonna be okay.
I think that's another valuable lesson of cooking. You have to try out several recipes several times before you find the ones that are just right. And this is, again, why Chris had mentioned that giving out the groceries with our participants, because then they don't really have to worry about sacrificing the cost of that. And so we always try to check in with them the next week to see if they used that recipe or if they just used any of the ingredients. And a lot of times they do, and they really like having those fresh ingredients.
And we've learned, I think, from them that often they get creative with the ingredients, you know, and that's actually a big learning point in a normal Cooking Matters class. If they come back the next week, did you make the recipe? We ask, and then often they say, I did, but I made this change, or I actually, used the tortillas for something else, and then I made this other recipe with the rest of the ingredients. And the rest of the thing about that is that's way different coming from them than from us. For the other participants, they hear that and think differently about it, I think. And so that's a fun part of it for me. I really enjoy hearing how they get creative. Every now and then someone's like, yeah, they made something, I don't know, crazy fried thing with it all. And we're like, okay, cool. That's fine sometimes. We always, moderation, but also, it's creative. So it's good.
Yeah. And I think, like he had mentioned, like having that conversation and that dialogue has always been one of the most valuable things for our participants, because, we can talk about things that we do, but our lives and situations might be very different. And so maybe there are others in the class who might kind of have a similar life situation, and they might be able to learn from each other a lot more than from us. So I'm going to check in on, Lee looks like she's just about to run to the oven.
Yeah, I'm about to put my second batch of tortilla chips in. I don't know if you can see these at all. For this batch, I put a little salt on top, and I'm trying the red cayenne pepper because I needed it for the bean dip, and I figured, why not spice things up, literally spice things up. And I'm gonna try putting these ones in for a little bit longer this time, and see if I can get them a little crispier. So we will check back in a moment.
Okay, so it's great. We'll check back in when you're back. All right, and then Lauren, looks like you're still cooking away here.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for this quesadilla to cook, but that should be another couple minutes.
All right, sounds good. That's the middle school kids love the quesadillas because they just sit there and wait for the cheese, and they're like, okay, now do the first one with all the veggies and a little bit of cheese, and then the second one they make is almost always a lot of cheese with a little bit of veggie there. So they do like the cheese. All right, so I was going to ask everybody, what's your favorite kind of budget-friendly meal? If you want to throw it in the chat, I think that's a really good way. This is exactly the kind of thing that we do in our Cooking Matters program, where we kind of learn from each other. So one of my favorite budget-friendly meals is not necessarily something that I go out and buy, but using up leftovers. And I think recently the way that I've been using up leftovers the most is by making various pastas. So whatever leftovers I have, I kind of throw them in a pan with some onions, garlic, cook some pasta, and then I kind of toss it all in olive oil, and that's pretty much of my easy budget-friendly meal. So what about you, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, for leftovers, I think, we're entering the time where I really like to use them in soups and stews and things like that. Katie just said chili in the chat, and that's one that I really like, finding surprise vegetables in, well, not surprise to me, but surprise to whoever might be eating it, vegetables in chili, zucchini, sweet potatoes, all kinds of different things are great in that, and in soups and stews and things like that. So I'd say that's kind of a big one for that, for me anyway. And sometimes I just like roasting them. All kinds of vegetables are great roasted too. So if you really get stuck, broccoli, cauliflower, carrots, onions, potatoes, peppers, all these things roast up. Zucchini, really great. Green beans.
Now I just need a suggestion on how to use up all of the millions of cucumbers that I'm growing in my garden, because I'm just about done with cucumbers now. All right, so Lauren, what other kind of budget-friendly recipes do you like to make?
One of my favorites is from the Cooking Matters cookbook, the barley jambalaya, and I really like that because you can use whatever vegetables you have frozen. I know I've used peas, carrots, and corn that I had in the freezer. And then it's a great way to use up extra celery since you can only buy the huge thing. And I really love it because since my family eats gluten-free, instead of using barley, we use brown rice or other rice, or quinoa. So, and I just love the flavor. I love the bay leaves. They add such great flavor to the dish.
Awesome. Yeah, barley is kind of this, I think, kind of like this hidden secret in the culinary world. I think barley is just fantastic. It tastes good. It has just the right amount of crunch, and it's so cheap. It tends to cook up quite a bit. So, you have 1/2 cup of barley, and then you end up with about 2 cups of barley. So this just increases in volume just like rice does, but it also has a lot more fiber than rice. So we use barley in quite a few of our recipes. All right, Liv, what's one of your favorite budget-friendly?
One of my budget-friendly like go-to meals, I really like black beans. So I like to make black bean burgers with like canned black beans and like an onion and some peppers, and it's like very simple, and um, it's not very difficult to make. So I really like using a lot of like swapping canned goods and like really utilizing that.
Awesome. Yeah, I love using canned goods. I use a lot of canned corn, a lot of canned beans. And like I mentioned, a lot of times these can be a really healthful, beneficial option. And one of the things that Lee had mentioned was rinsing off that extra sodium. So you can often find now low sodium cans of beans and tomatoes. But if you can't find low sodium beans, you can always rinse them off. And I think it reduces the sodium by 30%.
About 30%,
Right?
yeah. Yep.
Okay. So we had a couple really great suggestions for cucumbers that I'm really excited about. Anne and Denise, those are really interesting and creative. The cold cucumber soup and cucumbers with homemade pesto and Parmesan sounds amazing. We definitely need to have an alumni guest. Cold cucumber. And then, okay, so 1-pan meals, ground turkey, onion, garlic, eggplant, and crushed tomatoes. Awesome. So it sounds like you guys have some really great ideas. And this is, again, what we do in our Cooking Matters program as well, is we kind of ask you because you probably know a lot of fun, budget-friendly recipes. All right. So who have I not checked on here? Ryan, do you have how's your pancakes going? How are your pancakes going?
Really good. I'm just I only have 2 burners and I need to make 3 things. So I'm trying to make sure the kids get fed right now. I'm all over the place. So the pancakes are coming out really good. They cook quicker than I thought, but they're going pretty well. I can show you here in just a second.
We
Awesome.
we did those pancakes at we haven't done that this year, but we've been at the farmers market here in Delaware sometimes during the summer and in the fall, and have some different recipes and things that people can try. And one time we were making those pancakes during apple season, and I know it sounds a little weird with the orange pancakes and the apple topping, but it was pretty good. So you can also kind of use fruit and cook that down and put them on those pancakes and make them, seasonal, even more seasonal and fun like that.
Awesome. Like I said, I'm no pancake expert, so this one is beyond me. Oh, look at those pancakes. They're gorgeous.
Thank you.
What lovely pancakes. Pancakes are, I think, the epitome of budget-friendly food. I think they are one of the cheapest, easiest things to make.
These especially, they're super fluffy for, this is my first time making them, so I can only imagine someone that's actually done this before making actually super fluffy pancakes.
Awesome. You'll have to let us know what the kids think. All right, Lee. Oh, she disappeared.
She's back.
All right. Lee, do you have any budget-friendly? I mean, if you're eating vegetarian, often everything is kind of budget-friendly. Well, not everything, but.
Well, some things. This is kind of, sorry, I'm really struggling right now. Ryan's making oatmeal pancakes. I really like just oatmeal. I'm a huge oatmeal fan because you can also make oatmeal with a variety of different things. You can make water, regular milk, but also a lot of plant milks are really good with oatmeal. And you can basically make it however you want. So you can do plain, or fruit, or stuff like that. Like cinnamon, that's my favorite. Cinnamon, like brown sugar, stuff like that. So oatmeal is a big one of mine, I think.
Yeah, oatmeal is another really super affordable breakfast food. My usual affordable breakfast is eggs and toast, and just always eggs and toast. I probably
some
eat
tell
that.
that there's something else on toast that you've gotten quite fond of too. So.
I have gotten fond of avocado toast, but I really don't want to admit that I eat avocado toast because it's, you know, it's not how I identify myself.
It's a little too fancy.
It's too fancy, yep.
But it's fun. So the thing about avocado, like if you have an avocado toast and you kind of, you know, mash that up, you can put all kinds of, you were talking about leftovers, you can do that too. So if you've got a few onions that you diced up, those can go on there. You can, you know, tomatoes this time of year, other things, peppers, all kinds of stuff can go on there too and make it really yummy. So if you're looking for an alternative to, you know, eggs and toast, avocados are affordable now most of the time, at least when they're, you know, kind of getting in it when they're seasons. But yeah, I will admit I love it too. So.
All right, Lauren, how are you doing?
Good. I just finished up 2 of the quesadillas.
Ooh.
I'll try and cut a little bit up so you can see the inside.
Those look amazing. And you're making them on corn tortillas, right?
Yes, and they're much smaller than the whole wheat tortillas, but that's okay. Mini is
yeah, I'm interested in how this worked out.
Yeah, it worked out just fine, actually. And I feel like you technically get more quesadillas, which is my favorite.
True.
All right, this one's hot, but here's the inside. It's kind of falling apart because the corn tortilla is a little bit different than the whole wheat, but it's very cheesy. There's corn like coming out of it, but I'm excited to eat it. It smells really good.
Awesome. Yeah, I will warn you, we'll send you this quesadilla recipe. It makes a lot of the filling, so you will have extra filling for any other kind of things. I think we've used it to make burritos, or I think at one point I added it to the top of a baked potato. So you can use that extra filling for a lot of different things. So I think everybody is pretty well wrapping up their cooking, looks like. So it looks like everybody's kind of wrapping up their cooking. I know Liv has kind of got her frittatas in the oven. Frittata does take a little bit longer, so it's hard to show that one. So I think I'm going to turn it back to Katie, and we'll kind of wrap up a little bit.
All right, thank you. Well, we will have a photo of all the recipes that everyone has made. So Liv will make sure that you take a really good photo of yourself eating that frittata. And Ryan, if you have your guest eaters with you that want to provide some sort of 2 thumbs up or any kind of, you know, influence of your recipe, or, you know, giving you props, feel free to have them add that in. This has been a lot of fun. For those of you, I see a lot of familiar faces on this show. This is always one of my favorite, that we're able to feature our students and our faculty and doing things off the cuff from their home, dealing with, you know, maybe burnt pancakes or recipes that don't come out the right way or dropped ingredients. So it's just like being in your own kitchen. But thank you all so much for joining us. I encourage you to check out all of our virtual opportunities, but want to point out our next cooking class is October 12th. This is going to be a lot of fun as OWU chefs take on America's Test Kitchen. Kate Shannon from the class of 2008 was on earlier. She had to step out, but she is the deputy editor of America's Test Kitchen Reviews, which is the product review team at America's Test Kitchen. And so she'll share the latest information on kitchen gadgets, new ingredients, recipes. In addition, all of our student chefs will be cooking from one vessel. So America's Test Kitchen is coming out with a new cookbook in November. And if you register and participate, you could have the chance to win one of 3 copies that she's willing to give away. But each of the students are going to be making a dish. It could be for 2 people, for a family, out of 1 vessel. So think crock pot, Instapot, skillet, the oven. So this is going to be a lot of fun. And she also is providing kind of like the behind the scenes of some of the gadgets that she has tested previously that might be already in your kitchen. So I'm really looking forward to having her as our guest alum for that. But please join us on October 12th. As always, your feedback is super important to us, and you'll be getting a survey tomorrow along with all of the recipes. We'll make sure to include the link to the Cooking Matters cookbook as well. And also one more thing to promote, we are going to have, it's a great month to be a bishop in October, which is full of a lot of really fun activities to bring something to all of you during this time. When we normally would be welcoming alumni back to campus for homecoming, we are going to be coming to you with a lot of things, including our next cooking class. So thank you all for joining us, and it was great to see you, and we'll see you next time.